particularly fruits and other materials for his health. And in due course of time, he was also depending on the hunting, hunting of animals. Gathering foods and hunting animal was the only way out for his living. So he has to move from one place to another place. That is called as the nomadic pastoralism. And in due course of time, man started learning how to domesticate animals, as because it was not possible for men, or human being, to get the animals for attack or for hunting. So now the man thought that if I could domesticate some animals, and when I'll feel hungry, I can kill them and I can make them for you for food purpose also. And in due course of time, agriculture also came, and the some animals like horse, dog, these animals helped in hunting also. So in case of hunting, शिकार क्षेत्र में मैंने बहुत help करते. So that is why man thought of uh, domesticating animals. So as we examine the history of the patterns of human settlement on the Indian subcontinent, we find that there are some groups of people who were living the nomadic way of living or nomadic life. Since this stage is associated with the practice of pastoralism, we generally call it as nomadic pastoralism. They moved from one place to another. That is, we can call the sorry.
They are moving from one place to another in search of food.
Yeah, they were moving in search of food, uh, and the
Pastoralism means କଣ?
during this କଣ
Pastoralism.
ପାଷ୍ଟରାଲିଜିମ ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି ଗୋଚାରଣ, ଯୋଉଟା ଆମର ଚରେଇବା, ଯୋଉ ତମକୁ କହିଲି ଯେ ସେମାନେ ପଶୁ ମାନଙ୍କୁ କାହିଁକି ରଖିଲେ. ହ୍ୟାଲୋ, ହଁ କୁହ, କିଏ କଣ କହିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛ? So, as because they thought that it is very much necessary to domesticate animals, so it is also it was essential for them to provide food for the animals also. Pastoralism means to in some sorts of grass also, or vegetable leaves, so that the animals can live and they can easily take them as food in when they feel them as necessary, or when they feel hungry, as because they were eating the animals. So they started uh, taking these domesticated animals to different parts in search of food, again to for the food of these animals. The nomadism among these human groups was primarily determined by pastoral requirements of wandering in search of suitable forests. So similarly, the pastoralism among them was guided by the urge to have a regular supply of food, that is the animal meat, undistributed by the vagaries of weather. Suppose in case of when there is a thunder, or there is heavy rain, they cannot go for hunting. So in that case, they can use those animals for food. So that for that purpose, they started these domesticating animals, or these, and in order to give food for them, they live the life of nomadic pastoralism, or from one place to another. When there was the shortage of grass and other leaves, they took those animals to other places also. So ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ଥାନରୁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ଥାନକୁ ନେଇ ଯାଉଥିଲେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଚରେଇବା ପାଇଁ. ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ହଉଛି ଚାରଣ, ପାଷ୍ଟୋରାଲିଜମ ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି ଚାରଣ. So emergence of pastoralism, the only evidence on human groups and their habitats suggests that the animals found in the vicinity were hunted for food, uh, assisted by stone tools and implements enjoyed in butchering and skinning, besides, of course, in hunting. Wherever animal population in the area depleted, the group was obliged to move to locations which provided sufficient supply of animal again. So, as I was telling, so in search of food, in search of animals, also they were looking for. Suppose in one area there was the animals ended means the सब ସରିଗଲେ ଯୋଉଠି ତମର animals ମାନେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ place କୁ ଯାଉଥିଲେ ସେଠି କଣ କରୁଥିଲେ ନା ସେଠି ପୁଣି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ସେଠି animal ପାଉଥିଲେ ସେଠି ସେମାନେ ରହି ଯାଉଥିଲେ. So it has been suggested that three main factors in the lifestyle of hunter-gatherers would have helped domestication of animals to begin as a regular practice. What is those? The movement of the animal populations becoming constrained and restricted due to several environmental factors. Thus increasing the possibility of their capture and confinement of by human groups. Second is the possibilities of breeding the animals under conditions of captivity, thus helping human groups maintain some optimum population for use for dietary purposes. So all these animals they were domesticating for dietary purposes. Control of and another point is that control of feeding of the animals in activity in captivity to improve their breeding and stock. So if they could domesticate animals, they can produce more and more animals by uh, breeding and stock and keeping the animal stock or livestock. So the archaeological evidences for early domestication of animals is both rare and fragmentary. Mostly, it is not possible to clearly distinguish between the bones of wild and domesticated animals. Because suppose in case of they were domesticating horses and there were also wild horses. So you just can't identify, there is no distinction you can make between the domestication of domesticated animals, domesticated horses or domesticated, the wild horses. So because horse is one type of animal, so you just can't distinguish. So the archaeological evidence for these only domestical animals is very rare and fragmentary. But when man started living or man started settlement by making houses and at that places, if the human beings could keep or human beings domesticated animals, in that case we can say that those animals are domesticated animals. But during this prehistoric period, in nomadic period, what happened that the people were nomad in nature. They were moving from one place to another. So there was no particular place of living or a settled life. They were not living at that time. And another thing, as I was telling, that the animals needs grass. Particularly some animals needs grass, and availability of grass for hordes to use as pastures has also been suggested as a factor of great significance in the emergence of pastoralism. Because in order to feed these animals, grass was very much essential. So much has been said about India's lack of grasslands. There are climatic and edaphic grasslands as extremes of cold and aridity of or shallow soil or deep waterlogging. So we just can't, we have not got any information regarding or very less information regarding the grasslands of this prehistoric period. The presence of a tree layer doesn't eliminate grasses, so there can still be a significant grass cover under the trees. So as we expect and as we see that wherever trees are there, there are also grass lands. Also, we find also grass there. So grass is very much, as I was telling, grass is very much essential for animals. In India, the most clear evidence on the domestication of animals comes from the site located at Adamgarh, a hill in the Narmada Valley. The site is in fact a rock shelter that contains stone tools and other remains from the Mesolithic stage. So another very interesting event evidence that comes from the pictorial depictions made on rock shelters relates to the use of domesticated horses of hauling wheeled vehicles. So that also
Mesolithic,
came up. Sorry. Anyway, so now pastoralism and nomadic communities. So a convenient starting point of our understanding the factors that may have given rise to nomadism among uh, pastoralists as against a properly settled mode of living among the agriculturalists is to draw a comparison modes of sustenance. So there were one group who were depending on agriculture. Now they started settled somewhere, and there were some people they were just nomadic pastorals. Means they were just taking the animals to one place to another, just food, providing food to the animals and keeping their or eating their flesh whenever they feel hungry, means those nomadic people. So uh, this is the two difference between them. The one was living the settled life, another was living for the pastoral animals. The nomadic pastorals kept animal herds as their resource base, and depending on the size of regularly available pasturage, maintained the size of their herds. Means the cows or the bullocks or sheep or sorry, the goats, the whatever the animals, yeah, those who depend on grass. So they were making them domesticated animals, and they also pastoral means they were taking those animals to one place to another in search for their food, means the food of the animals, and when the human being felt hungry they used those animals for food. So ecological and seasonal factors seem to have played a central role in the life of nomadic pastoralists of the early period. So hunter gatherers, now nomadic pastoralism and settled communities. Hunter gatherers slowly evolving into a pastoral culture and agricultural sedimentism have been simultaneously processes. So साइमल्टेनियसली दीटा कल्चर चलला गोटे हला एग्रीकल्चरल सेडिमेंटलिज्म मींस जो गोटे लोक गोटे ग्रुप रहले एग्रीकल्चर ऊपर बेस कर रहले आउ केते कर जो लोक हंटर गैदरर स्टेज रे बा नोमैडिक पैस्टोरलिज्म रे रहले जो माने की अलगा साइट को जाई की अलगा एरिया को जाई की से एरिया रु खाद्य संग्रह करूथले बा शिकार करूथले किमा ए जो पशु मानकु चरौथले पुणी से मानकु खाद्य आकार grown culturally. So the relationship between pastoralists and cultivators was of advantage to both. Means the cereal requirements of the pastoralists were fulfilled by the farming communities. The additional labor-intensive work of growing food crops was therefore conveniently avoided by the pastoralists. So, gote group food production करथले, those means they were producing foods or crops, and another group was producing animals or animal livestock. They depend on that, and sometimes there was the relationship, means they provided crops to another group, this pastoral groups, and the pastoral groups provided the animals to this agriculturist group. So there was, in summary, we can say that the pastoralist community, the communities adopting pastoralism as a mode of living, generally looked for large pastures around their habitat. They would even migrate to new habitats in search of food pastures, resulting into nomadic habits finding a place among pastoralists. The demographic status of pastoral communities was such that agriculture was not generally attempted by these pastoralists. They were not looking for agriculture. They were looking for the animals only, livestock only. So rainfall therefore had only a minor role for to play against being a key feature of for the settled agriculturists. So now let us move for the origin of agriculture, how agriculture was originated. The beginning of agriculture considered to be a momentous event in the nature-human interface, as it is generally associated with the Neolithic revolution. During this Neolithic period, as I was telling in the last class, that in Neolithic period, this agriculture came. The groundstone artifacts of this period, which were well-rounded and had smooth, long edges, made the cultivation of soil an easier process. Once man took to agriculture, uh, several very significant changes followed that may be legitimately called as heralding the beginning of a new phase in man and environment interface, or between the relationship between human being and the nature. So now let us know about the origin of this agriculture, and there was the transformation of hunter-gatherer societies to a agricultural society. So the changes introduced in the stone artifacts that made smooth surfaces and well-rounded and symmetrical shapes possible were of such far-reaching consequences that they were termed as ringing a remarkable shift in the stage of human evolution. So, hmm. so in this Neolithic period, the beginning of agriculture, as we are discussing, was an event of very far-reaching consequences. It was also an event that had demarcated a definite shift in human relationship with the environment. As a matter of fact, why I am saying so, it is because that man started a settled life. You just can't leave, or you just can't leave for 1 or 2 days for agricultural purpose. So you have to stay some period, for some period, in order to produce the food, or in order to produce the crops. So it was a settled life, means that man started settled life during this Neolithic period, and there was the emergence of agriculture. Uh, this agriculture first started in Asia, in if we, as we are discussing about India. So in the first began, means in this region, agriculture first began in West Asia, and from there it spilled over into South Asia. The evidence available today suggests that the people of Syria
ସାର୍ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ମାଇକ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଅଛି।
Oh, sorry. Actually, Ajit sir had called, made a call, so that is why it was disturbed. And I just attended the call, that is why it was disturbed. Anyway, so in the we are discussing about the early agricultural, early agriculture and its regional disperse. The successful exploitation or domestication of several species of wild plants and the consequent rise of sedentary settlements were processes that showed multiple patterning over such a large geographical area as South Asia. As I was telling, that agriculture started first in Palestine and particularly in Asian countries. West Asia, it's first started in West Asia, then it spreaded to South Asia. And Palestine was the first country to where agriculture was first started. So in Indian context, if we will discuss that there are certain places where agriculture, particularly agriculture, started from there. And first one is the Baluchistan. Baluchistan forms the border region with the Indus system. The spillover of agriculture from West Asia via Afghanistan had taken place in this region before it reached the Indus system. The environmental conditions obtaining in this region are therefore of interest to us, that to explain the emergence of agriculture here. So as I said, that in this place in Balochistan, it was there was the evidence of furo or जो हल करिवार जो चिन्ह गुड़ाक मध्य से जो आमे पाइछंती in Balochistan. Two major sites of this region are Killi Gul Muhammad and Mundigak. Kiligul Muhammad has yielded evidence relating to the domestication of cattle, sheep, goat, oxen, and mud brick houses, suggesting sedimentary way of life. So, in that place, particularly Kilgul Muhammad, we have found this means man who was keeping cattle, sheep, goat, oxen, and mud brick houses. जो माटी घर जो गुड़ा ताको से तारा evidence मध्य मिली थी. So in Indus system, if we'll discuss another area of agriculture was in India was Indus system. A geo-historical entity, Indus Valley, is quite well known to us. So I'm a samas the Hindu Sabhata katha. So we have called the same entity with the same Indus system to make it little more flexible and give us the facility of including some of the fringes. So the environmental condition of Indus system has been graphically described by the historians and archaeologists too. The Indus plain offer a very different environment for the upland villages of Balochistan. And as I was telling, that it was both the Balochistan and the Indus system was just the neighborhood, means Indus system or Indus Valley is situated near this Balochistan. So there was the relations between two sets of people, two groups of people. So it is clear from this description that peculiar behavior of rivers in this region helped agriculture to grow and take roots. Particularly in the river areas, whenever floods comes, soil becomes fertile. So fertile land is very much essential for the development of agriculture, and agricultural activities developed during this period, in these areas. Then another agricultural site was Mehergarh. Mehergarh is also a very good place in the Quetta Valley, which was also excavated, and it was a Neolithic settlement. And from the beginning itself, the habitation comprised houses made of sun-dried mud bricks, having several smaller rooms and a hearth. So এই সব এরিয়ার কোন হচ্ছে না ছোট ছোট ঘর সব মাটি ঘর মিলিছে এবং সেটা হার্থ আছে আমার চুল্লি মিলিছে. So we prove that the presence of agriculture as stated by Irfan Habib is attested by the finds of seeds. সেটা আমরা মঞ্জি পাউছেন the bulk or the naked 6 row barley মধ্যে ଆମେ ପାଉଛନ୍ତି এই সব এরিয়াରୁ. So then another agricultural places, the northern valleys. Evidence of early agriculture in this region is best reported from the Kashmir era. Kashmir area. So Kashmir, जो हमारा Jammu Kashmir. So say Kashmir area, हमें पाउछन northern valleys रो. There are two principal sites in Kashmir that gives us useful material evidence on early agriculture. First is Burzaham. It is very close to Srinagar. So we get information about peat dwelling habitats, and uh, the walls of these dwellings as well as their floors were sometimes plastered with mud. सो एई एरिया रे काश्मीर एरिया में सेठी मध्य में माटी घर रो संधान पाउछंती ताकू ସେମାନେ ଘର କରିଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ତାକୁ କାଦୁଅ ଦ୍ୱାରା ତାକୁ କଣ କରିଛନ୍ତି ବେଢି ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ବା ତାକୁ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ଲାଷ୍ଟର କରିଛନ୍ତି. So there are also some deeper pits which were probably reached through steps. There were certain houses which had steps also. It is, however, significant that direct evidence for agriculture in Bozam has not been available. The other side, how we can make an inference? आकु आमे केमती गोटे ये जानि परिबा ता भितर गोटे सत्यटा केमती आनिबा ना एई सेंस रे जे जेहेतु मनीष माने रहुतले as because human being were living in a settled life means they had to depend on certain settled food pattern. Otherwise how can we live? How can you live without food? So जदि कोट तमर सेटलमेंट अछि टेक फॉर एग्जांपल तमे एथर बाहर को जाउछ तमे बाहर रही पारछ नाही कारण जतिक दिन पैसा अछि जतिक दिन तुम पे हेटी खाइया पई अछि तमे सेतिक दिन रहले तापर तुम किमा काम पई जाउछ पैसा सरी गला काम खाद्य सरी गला तापर से जागा छाडी तुम जागा को आछछ तुम जागा रे कोन अछि ना खाइबा को अछि सेहिति पई तुमे रहउछ जोटी मଣିଷ खाइबा अछि सेठी मଣିଷ जाउछ ठीक अछि साइज खाइबा पई मଣିଷ कुआडे कुआडे सब चाकरी करिया को जाउछ नाही समस्त एटा इट इज द नेचर human nature starting from the beginning. So eastern area the region of east of Indus area is different from the Indus area environmentally as it has been a region of high monsoon rainfall. So in the Mesolithic settlements have been present in this region from a very early time, and the beginning of agriculture has in many cases been in continuation of this culture. So as because monsoon was regular, so uh, as because monsoon was regular there, so human being started living there also. So peninsular India also we do there. The evidence for early agriculture in this part of country comes mainly from the sites excavated in Karnataka region. These sites are commonly known as the Ash Mounds and are located at Utnur, Upgal, Kodaikal and Palwai. So it is suggested that no outside influence worked in the development of these sites, and they had an impulse of their own in developing a Neolithic culture. It was not influenced by other culture. So the evidence discussed by us, it gives us an idea about the early agriculture in India. The environmental conditions had become favorable at a time about 10,000 years in the parts from now. Agriculture originated in West Asia and from there traveled a route that passed through North Afghanistan, the Indus system, northern valleys to the central and eastern part of India. Now, let us know about the river valley civilization. So, the river valley civilization that developed in India in the third millennium BC is generally known as the Indus civilization or the Harappa civilization. So, tell me why man started living near the river valleys? Why not in mountain ranges? First, who can say why man preferred to live in river areas rather than in the mountain regions or in the desert areas? Anyone
Because
of
of
you?
agriculture.
No. First thing is man needs water to live. It is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
very essential thing for human being, or not only human being, for all living creatures. Water is very essential. Without water, we cannot exist. So water was used for uh, his living pattern, means for the life itself, for agriculture purpose, for house making, or making houses, for anything. Water was needed. So that is why man started living in the river valley areas, and even today also you do find all the maximum, means 99% cities have been established near a river area, because you have to provide water to the people living there. So water is very much essential. So man started living in the river areas, river valley areas, for his sustenance. So another important thing, as I was telling, that to support agriculture, man was living in the river areas. The flood plains of rivers supporting agriculture has been a typical environmental activity in this region. It gave rise to inhabitations that sustained on a mix of agriculture and nomadic practices. Some major sites of this type excavated in the region are Kilgul Muhammad, Rana Gundai, and Mehergarh. The result of excavation at Mehergarh have been practically rewarding. Mehergarh was an olive food producing village located on the banks of Bolan River that flowed through the Kachi Plain, which is an extension of the Indus Valley. So the Bolan River provides a major route of communication between the Indus Valley and Balochistan. Another important point is that it was a place for transportation. Means through river, man could transport things to other parts, to another area also. In due course of time, it discovered this boat, and which helped in transportation of goods and transportation of human beings or cattle, etc. So Mehergarh is a unique site that it provides evidence for from nearly every phase of Neolithic revolutions, extended roughly from 700 BC to 7000 BC to 3800 BC. That is prehistory period, and settlements at Mehergarh have been found spread almost in a line. The overlap is absent as the settlers moved from one place to another along the Bolan River. This movement from north to south was three distinct periods: first, second, and third of settlement, which was noticeable. The environmental conditions we will discuss, that the environmental conditions in the Indus area is of importance because the region today falls in a semi-arid zone and may perhaps not sustain agriculture in the same measure in which archaeological evidence provides a testimony. The issue of layers, so these agricultural practice went years long, and Indus agriculture was the outcome of agriculturally productive potentialities of the region, about which we have already discussed in some points. The fact that it sustained the development of such an important cultivation civilization is in itself adequate proof of these potentialities. So, if there will be no agriculture, then there will be no such great civilization like uh, Indus Valley civilization. It shows that the Indus Valley civilization shows that there was rich agricultural production, or the Indus people produced much more, means agricultural products. So as and the population was also increasing day by day. The number of inhabitants that in this large area, nearly 7 lakh square kilometers, contained has been viciously estimated that the estimates is ranging from 1 to 5 million people. Perhaps it is more reasonable to set it a point somewhere midway, given a total number of 1,50,000 persons assignable to Mohenjo-daro and Harappa alone. You see, means 1,50,000 people were living in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro alone in these two cities. The total urban population could not have been less than 2,50,000 alone to these cities. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, they consist of 1,50,000 and another 1 lakh from other parts of the Indus Valley region. And other sites like Ganeriwala in Bahawalpur and Lakmirwala in the Indian Punjab still remain unexcavated. These sites are still to be excavated, and in such a position, there was an increase in agricultural production which was achieved. Uh, it does not more remain a puzzle. We should not be get puzzled that there was no increase in agricultural production in Indus Valley civilization, as we see that there was huge population. At that time, there was 2,50,000 people who were living in Harappa, Mohenjo-daro in some parts of it. So to feed this huge population, it means agriculture would have been more developed there. So methods and tools in a region which did not have sufficient rainfall for supporting agriculture recourse was taken, as has been noted above, to the flood plains of rivers which had the tendency of depositing every year soft and fertile alluvial soil along their banks during the summer months. So whenever there was floods, so it was flooded with alluvial soil, which is much fertile, and the fertile soil is more helpful for the development of agriculture. So this is not in case of India only. We can find in river systems like Nile, Euphrates, Tigris river systems. Nile in Misr, Tigris and Euphrates. And so all these river system helps in producing more and more food productions. A comparison of the Indus with Nile and Euphrates and Tigris has been done by certain Garcia that Nile, in contrast to Indus, are predictable and tame. It floods extremely narrow valley between the late June and September with a fair degree of regularity. The Indus too floods in the summer months, well before the wheat and barley sowing. It is at its level in August, but its annual water discharge is 207 billion cubic meters as against the 63 billion cubic meters of the Nile. So it means that the river flow or the water flow in Indus Valley civilization was much more than the river valley of Nile in Misha. So it had also catchments areas which helped in the production of in agricultural products. The important evidence on agricultural tool comes from Kalibangan in Rajasthan, Kalibangan, Banwali, then Jaiwala and Surtugai. So these are the places which are rich in agriculture. Two plowed fields have been discovered by archaeologists from Kalibangan in Rajasthan and from the Indus settlement in Surtugai. The sites at Banwali and Jawaiwala, that is the Bahawalpur in Western Punjab, has provided evidence relating to plough as an agricultural tool. So now let us know what were the crops that were produced during this period. So the as we know that Rabi crops were actually produced, and Rabi crops were sown after the season of floods by September or so. Wheat and barley were two main crops that were produced in this Indus Valley civilization. The other Rabi crops for which the evidence has come from Indus sites were mustard, linseed, linseed, peas, lentil, gram, if not everywhere, at least in some localized places, millets grown in summer, and also rice have also been reported. The crops of Indus civilization were, as I told, that wheat, barley, grain, peas, sesame, ripe, and cotton. In addition, the people of Indus region grew dates and grapes also. They also collected uh, Indian jujube. They were also great fish eater. Indus Valley means uh, in the river areas where people were living, they were fish eaters. For instance, I was excavating in Shishupalgarh near Bhubaneswar in Odisha under Professor Monica L. Smith, Professor California University, USA, and Professor Rabi Mohanty in Pune, in Deccan College of Pune. So in that area, we had excavated some sites and Chichpalgarh. And in that place, in one place, we found huge amounts of fish bones and other means the other animal bones also we found, and it is we expected that it was a kitchen site and from which we could find all these things there. And we also discovered certain grains like moong, rice, and all these things. So we find that in Odisha also we do have find. So anyway, now let us go for the agricultural diffusion and regional specificities. The diffusion of agriculture in North India was marked by elements of continuity and change. So actually, change is the law of nature. Everything is changing on its own way. In agricultural sector also, there things are getting changed from the prehistoric agriculture to the modern agriculture. Now we are using tractor and all those modern equipments for agriculture. At that time, it was not there. There was the traditional pattern of agriculture. So the antiquities of irrigation, list of basic crops including rice, and use of primitive plow can be dated to Harappa and post-Harappa period. However, the changes occurred in the nature of agricultural practices. The changes were to a large extent influenced by several of variable including ecology. While high yield variety of wet rice cultivation was the hallmark of Gangetic Plains, the emerging variations in agriculture mechanism ushered a new phase of in agriculture. So in this unit, we'll learn about the how the what things happened after the Harappan civilization up to the pre-colonial period in North India. The ecological development or the environmental development. So we'll discuss about the possibilities of agricultural agriculture outside Harappa, co-pattern and linkages, if any, with the Harappan civilization, agro-pastoralism and shifting subsistence patterns, iron and wheat rice cultivations, their role in second urbanization and early state formation, shift of the agricultural epicenter to different ecologies and significance of irrigation, phased formation of agricultural regions in all India, and finally the extension of agricultural area and new crops, state interest and intervention are in medieval period. So now let us know about the geography and subsistence strategies. The possibilities of agriculture, its spread and regional variations in all India were dependent on geography to a considerable extent. The status of cultivation in all India ranged from shifting cultivation to slash and born to Sweden or Jhum or hoe to plough cultivation. The passes and the valleys facilitated the pastoralists from one place to another, from Afghanistan or Central Asia in the north and Tibet in the east, while some of the rivers spreading over a fertile silt attracted agriculturists. The pluvial soil, so the alluvial soil that we find after the flood, these help in the development of agriculture, particularly in the plain areas. The plain areas of Brahmaputra witnessed the development of developments at latter stage. Preconditions of agricultural development like and clearance was constrained by ecology and technology. There was no technology, means like the modern technology was not there at that time. So the variations in the settlement patterns and forests were often guided by climatic conditions. In the drier areas, villages were generally nuclear, fields bounded the settlements and pastures were located far away. Soil types, if we'll discuss the soil types have been the other important factor which has decided the agricultural variability, viability of different regions. From the fertile alluvial and cotton soil to not so fertile red soil and laterite, and the differentiated availability of natural nutrients, water retention, and water retentions have all determined the nature and the rate of agricultural growth. Riverine regions which still the floodplains are preferred when the location is hazardous. So there were certain terms like Bono, Aranya, Khetra, Janapada. So these are the terms. Bono. So in early Indian literature, which describes Pulindas, Nisadas, Savaras as demonic figures, relegated. Sorry.
Janapada.
Khetra, Janapada, Bono, Aranya or Aranya. So in Mahabharata we find all these things. There is a Parva also, Bono Parva. Aranya Parva is also there. And Khetra or Janapada. Khetra means a area, or Janapada where the people were living. So there was the Shodasa Mahajanapadas. So anyway, that is a different thing. In Harsacharita written in 7th century that refers to agriculture, uh, uh, mm, sorry, refers to the acceleration of such forests, means regarding the bonas or aranyas, there was the mention. The images of forests which were seen as home to demonic creatures earlier came to be known as romanticized later. So, anyway, the aftermath of the Harappan civilization, if we'll discuss that after the Harappan civilization was an urban civilization. The post Harappan civilization, that is the Vedic civilization, as we know, that it was a rural civilization. Why it changed? There are certain factors were there. Although this is not necessary to mention you here, and just for your knowledge, that again another type of civilization or urban development occur in the Ganga Valley, Upper Ganga Valley. Although it was not like that of Indus Valley civilization, it was a little bit different from this urban culture of Indus Valley civilization. Then agropastoralism as Chalcolithic cultures. So, for your kind information, that the Indus Valley civilization belonged to this Chalcolithic period, Tambra Yuga. ঠিক আছে সো এই কালচারে এটা ডেভেলপ করেছিল and there were agriculturists, there were hunter-gatherers, there were pastoralists and farmers existed during this period. So the in Ahar, in there were certain places where rice occurs at Ahar in Rajasthan, Upper Gangetic Valley, Jiran in Bihar, Odisha, and further east, possibly in the northeast and at a later date at Malwa. In central India and Rajasthan, several Chalcolithic sites have been investigated. Of these, mention may be made of Kayatha culture in the Chambal Valley, Dangwada in Ujjain, and Ahar in Rajasthan. In the Gangetic plains, the peasant, unlike the Indus culture, was no longer confined to the narrow strips of flood lands enriched by fresh doses of moisture and silt. The generosity of monsoons allowed him to increase the yield by shifting to new reclaimed virgin lands from forests. So, as I was telling, it was just means they were using the land for some time, and after that left that place in and found another place from the forest region for agricultural purpose. There was BRW culture, black and red ware culture is found in Upper Ganga, Jamuna and Middle Gangetic Doab Valley also. Then subsistence in transition, pastoralism to agriculture in Vedic Karpash. So the people who were living the pastoral life, now they started the settled life through agriculture, and that we find in the form of Vedic period. In Rig Veda, Rig Veda is replete with references indicating the presence of predominantly pastoral societies. Means लोको गाय चरे से कमरे व्यस्त रहुଥିଲେ, several linguistic expressions denote the usefulness of a cow in this period. In the absence of landed economy, cow was treated as a scarce resource and hence become an object of veneration. So it was an object of veneration, and at that time, if any king was making a battle or declare war upon any king, any other king, then it was the sole purpose was to take away the cattle with him. Cattle at that time was considered as wealth. Go sampada. So even today also we do consider the animals, cattle animals, as our wealth. So anyway, things were there at this time. Then second urbanization, as I was telling, that it started in Upper Ganga valleys like Ganges plains, Ganges Brahmaputra delta, western coastal plains, deltas of the eastern coast and in central and peninsular India share the common factors of soil fertility and higher agricultural potential. Then after that, iron came to arise, or there was the appearance of iron. It was occurred during the second urbanization, which is occurred in first millennium, and it has been linked to transformative potential of iron technology and wet rice cultivation. So urbanism, as urbanism, the term urbanism developed with the development of this iron culture, when iron became uh, means the use of iron became more prominent and people used iron in a more manner. It helped in different, in agriculture, in hunting, in each and every factor. Iron was helping human being. Then all India irrigation reclamations and phased permissions. So irrigation patterns in all India, the construction of hydraulic despotism was established during this period. Then proliferation of agrarian knowledge and formation of subregions and regions. In the post-Maurya period, the epicenter shifted from Gangetic areas to the peripheries. The new centers of power emerged by 3rd century AD. Large parts of the Himalayan zone, Assam, West Bengal, Odisha, Eastern MP, Rajasthan, etc. By the early medieval period, different modes of water supply came to associated with it. Then in medieval period, there was the continuity and change in crop pattern in irrigation system, and the state and regional. There was also the state and regional interventions and the study of agricultural diffusion in the North India. It shows that the basic list of crops did not change much with the eastward movement in the aftermath of Harappan civilization. However, the Gangetic plains once made cultivable created favorable situation for further expansion. The shift of the epicenter from the Gangetic plains to peripheries was accompanied with the tapping of iron and other resources. Red soil forest terrain was colonized in a big way in the early medieval period. The rulers from the early medieval times not only granted land but also ordered the clearance of the forest and construction of irrigation facilities. So this was all about your irrigation pattern, about the agriculture, about the how man shifted from pastoralist to agriculturist, and the nomadic life of human being, etc. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.